So for project number 1, we have this clock that I thrifted. I paid about $6 for it, I think the tag said. And here I'm just taking it apart, taking the clock mechanism out, and cleaning it up with a couple wet wipes. My initial thought was that I was going to use the DIY Apothecary is what I wanted to use, but as it turns out that didn't really go well with the color that was on the color of the clock face. So I ended up going with Prairie Gray instead, and I think that complemented the color of the clock face a lot better. And then so here I'm just using the Perfectionist brush from DIY Paints, and it's really helping me get into those details really well. It really did not take a lot of work, and the pointed tip on that really did its job well. And then what I'm doing here is taking some wet wipes. I probably went through actually 5 or 6 wet wipes because every time the wet wipe picks up paint, then if you keep wiping with that spot, you are just redepositing paint. So you have to keep moving to a clean piece of wet wipe. And then, so once I had that done, I took out my DIY clear wax and my wax brush, and I'm just taking that into all of the nooks and crannies and details. And as you can see, it's really richening up the color of that prairie gray color. And then I got out the DIY white wax to get into all the details. And then again, using the wet wipes to wipe that back. A good moment perhaps to mention that all of the paint and products that I use in this video will be noted and linked in the description below. And then here you'll just see me adding a second coat to the back for full coverage, as well as giving a coat or 2 of paint to the ring that goes around the clock mechanism. And then I just go ahead and put that together, and here's the final result. And on to project number 2. I thrifted this aluminum box with a cover, and for about $1.50. I got to work removing all of the stickers, and then I gave it 2 coats of Rust-Oleum 2X flat primer in black. I'm going to go ahead and get out my DAS air dry clay in white and my IOD olive crust mold, and get out my cornstarch and give it a quick dusting before I get started with creating the mold. So I just go ahead and take a piece of the air dry clay and warm it up in my hands, press it down into the mold, and then use my thumbs to remove the excess. The micro rim of the IOD molds makes this really easy, and I love that. And then I go ahead and flip it over and gently roll the mold off of the clay. And then I get out the IOD letterpress stamps and get to work spelling out the word T. I use a small piece of the IOD thin mount to make this a lot easier on myself. I wasn't too happy with all of the tiny little straggly pieces around my mold, so I just used my Cricut weeding tool to gently remove all of those tiny little pieces. And then I just take that thin mount and press the words into the mold. And I wasn't too happy with the first impression, so I just went over it one more time. And that turned out pretty well. It did leave a couple of little indent pieces that I didn't love, so I just used a little spritz of water on my fingertip to smooth those out. And then I got out the Titebond Quick and Thick to attach the mold to the box. And then here's where I get to work with the DIY color Apothecary. Funny story, I went ahead and painted it and then stepped away for a couple minutes. And when I came back about 10 or 15 minutes later, the mold had moved because I set it up right and not on its side, so it slid down. So I did have to come back and fix that. Luckily it hadn't set yet, and that's why you see a big smear spot that I went ahead and fixed. Next I'm going to go ahead and get out the wet wipes again and get to work putting a little wet distress on this box. Once I was done with the wet distressing, I got out the DIY Big Top and put a nice coat all over the box. And then for the last step, I got out my Dixie Belle Best Dang Wax in the color black to give the box its finishing touches. I put the black wax into all of the details all over the front of the box, and then used a wet wipe to wipe off the excess so that it really brought out all of the details in that gorgeous mold and gave the box a little bit of character and age. And I did that over the entire box on all four sides and all of the parts of the top. And for project number 3, I thrifted this hanger gadget for about $1, and I took off the handle and took the whole thing apart and then got to work cleaning it up, getting all the thrift store funk off of it and all of the stickers. And then I got out the DIY color in Sandy Blonde and got to work putting a coat of paint on the background. The paintbrush that I'm using here is really good for the price. I got it from Amazon. It came in a 3-pack. They're all green like this, different sizes, but this one comes in really handy. It's kind of like the Perfectionist brush, but not quite as soft, and it's got all rounded edges. Again, all of those paint and products are listed below in the description if you're interested in checking those out. For the bracket, I'm using the Waverly Color Plaster, and for this one, because of all the detail, I got that Perfectionist brush back out again. And then, as you can see on this doorknob handle, there's some weird textured funk on the base of this handle, so wasn't quite sure what to do with it, and then I thought, oh heck, I'm just gonna go ahead and paint it. So I used the Waverly plaster colored paint and just painted that, and it painted up real easily. And I thought it looked way better than what was originally on there. And then I got to work putting a second coat of the Sandy Blonde on the plaque, as well as a second coat of the plaster on the tin piece. When I thrifted this piece, it seemed a little bit off. The tin piece was not quite fitting perfectly flush to the plaque, so it was a little bit wobbly. So I used some sandpaper to even out the surfaces, and then it fit perfectly. And then I got out the DIY wax in clear and got to work putting a coat of clear wax on the entire piece. But first I put the entire thing back together. Once I had a coat of the clear wax on the entire piece, I got out the dark wax, and for this I have a product from Kills that I got, I think, at Home Depot. Once this runs out, I'll probably get the DIY version. Until then, this works pretty well actually, and I will just use it until it's gone. So I just went ahead and put a coat of the dark wax on the entire piece and then wiped it back again with the wet wipe. Applying the clear wax to the piece before you apply dark or black wax to a piece really helps control your ability to wipe back the darker wax. So that's why I did that. And if you were to go ahead and put just black wax over the piece before any clear wax layer, you'd find it really hard to wipe back enough of the dark wax. I had a lot of fun doing these projects. I would say my favorite was probably the tea box. Leave a comment below and let me know which one was your favorite. Thank you for joining me here today at the Freckled Cottage. I hope you'll like, share, and subscribe to my channel. It'll really help me grow my new channel, and I'd appreciate it so much. Have a great day.